if you're feeling that way, to go back to the basics.
Yes.
Go back to the beginning. If you don't feel the way you felt at the beginning, go back and do the things you did at the beginning. If you look elsewhere and the grass looks greener over there than it is here, water your own grass.
Exactly.
Make this grass green.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, welcome to A Better Us, and welcome to our home.
We're glad you're here.
Okay, so before you got married, you fell in love.
That's right. But what about when a couple feels like they've fallen out of love?
Coming up, marriage expert Jay Payleitner actually tells us to not be afraid of falling out of love.
What does that mean?
That's a really good question. He's going to explain it, and our kitchen couples are going to be all over it.
Also, Dr. Mike is back on the beach talking about an issue in marriage that we're all familiar with: forgiveness.
Yeah, that is a big one. He says that forgiveness should be a regular daily occurrence if we want to have a healthy marriage.
But then he goes on to clearly define what forgiveness is not.
It's not. We have a lot to talk about, and as usual, we're going to do that in the kitchen with CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane.
And recording artist Dan McCauley and his wife Danielle.
You're in the right place, so stay with us.
Hi, this is Jay Payleitner, author of a bunch of books, conference speaker, and devoted husband and father. We are exploring some ideas from my new book, 52 Ways to Connect as a Couple. And today we're urging couples to not be afraid of falling out of love. That's a frightening phrase to many people. How many kids and teenagers were told by their parents that they were getting a divorce because mommy and daddy fell out of love? How many of your friends or neighbors have split up because they just fell out of love? Is that how it works? Two people love each other one day and then the next day they don't? Then how can any couple prevent that from happening? Instead of being afraid, do the opposite. Expect it. Plan for it. Know that sometime you're going to look at your husband or wife and think, where's the love? Who is this person I'm married to? What's missing? As terrifying as that sounds, you need to trust the promise of love. You know, 1 Corinthians 13, it says, love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Trust that if you focus on each other's needs with a servant's heart, very soon the appreciation, the respect, and the love will return. When the feeling comes that you are falling out of love, the worst thing you can do is panic. You start to say things and do things that you regret later. You imagine being single again, and that's somehow better. You flirt with a coworker, or you search online for someone that you dated in high school. Men will start clicking on porn sites, or women start turning to romance novels, or complaining about their husbands to their girlfriends. So instead of panicking, go back to the basics. Spend time together with each other. Do what friends do. Do what lovers do. Talk it out. Remember the past. Envision the future. As long as you and your bride have not given up, love will not fail. It may not feel like it, but love is still there. The good news is that when you come out on the other side, your love will be stronger, deeper, and more passionate than ever.
Okay, good stuff from Jay Payleitner there. Makes you think. And we're in the kitchen here with our kitchen couples, Mike and Diane, and Dan and Danielle. This idea of falling out of love.
I like that he said, expect that it's going to happen. Right. Because we base so much on our emotions that we're going to not really be crazy about this guy sometimes, or we're going to say he is the best thing since sliced bread. Like it's going to go up and down. Our emotions are going to go up and down. So be prepared for it.
Yeah, what I think we need to realize is that love it's it's a commitment. It's not a feeling, but it's a commitment. And when you commit to that person, then it makes a difference, right? Because a lot of times we think that love is a feeling. Oh, I'm not in love today. Or some days, I don't like this guy. I love him to pieces. But some days, I don't like him. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to fall out of love, right? I'm committed to him. When we took our vows, I'm committed to him through better for worse, rich or poor, all that, right? So I'm committed to stand in, with him, whatever we're going through. So I think we need to realize that it's a commitment and not a feeling.
Exactly.
I think maybe sort of expecting those range of emotions are going to happen. So maybe just to clarify his statement a little bit, but don't expect to fall out of love. Right? Because love is not a feeling, as she was saying. Love is a commitment. So he was talking about working through. So I kind of thought about this verse. I never thought about this verse in that way before. But when God says, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, right? Part of what he tells us is to stay with our significant other, right? And to do until death do us part. And so now what we're supposed to do is work the He says, well, I don't feel it anymore. I don't care what you feel. Do what you're supposed to do, right? And if you do what you're supposed to do, then you're going to feel what you want to feel.
Right. Feelings follow right actions.
That's right.
Right.
Yes.
What is that saying, honey, you say about the bacon and egg?
I think that's a Brian Warren one. He says, remember the bacon and egg breakfast? The chicken was involved, but the pig was committed.
That's a full commitment.
When you get married, you are committed.
Yeah, you would think it sounds depressing almost to say expect to fall out of love, but you would know any sports team has a plan. What's that phrase? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
And so it just makes sense. Anyone who succeeds has a plan in place. Any family has a fire escape plan. Anything like that. We just have to. And Proverbs talks about. What is that verse? Where there is no vision, people perish. So you don't have a plan, you plummet. Yeah.
And he said, if you're feeling that way, to go back to the basics.
Yes.
Go back to the beginning.
that's
If you don't feel the way you felt at the beginning, go back and do the things you did at the beginning. If you look elsewhere and the grass looks greener over there than it is here, water your own grass.
Exactly.
Make this grass green.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can't see the poop on the other guy's lawn from your. You know what? We have two dogs, and you go in our backyard. I mean, from a distance it looks okay, but you get up close, there's a lot of junk there.
Had to bring that up, didn't you?
And anyway, but we in our society, it's so emotions based. Hollywood and the movies, it's kind of if it feels good, do it, or if you don't feel it, then you've lost it, and these emotions. But emotions can't be the thermostat.
That's right.
We're in our house here, and there's a thermostat just over there, and you set it. And forget it, because it'll bring to that level. But if the emotions, if you come down, I'm feeling low today, so you bring it down, and that becomes the thermostat for your marriage. It's going to mess things up. It's going to go up and down and up. But the love part is that set it at that 72 degrees, and you stay there because that's the rock. That's the basis. It's a decision of the will.
Well, talking about Hollywood, I mean, we talk about movies and things and what a huge impact they have on our society and on our marriages. But Hollywood says, you have to keep trying until you find your soulmate. If you don't find your soulmate with one spouse, then move on to another spouse, or move on to another
The
spouse.
problem must be the person.
But we've got news for Hollywood, don't we? Soulmates are not found or born; they're made. You make your soulmate. You make your soulmate through financial stresses. They're made through changing an endless amount of dirty diapers. They're made through staying faithful through the emotional highs and lows. They're made through weathering any kind of storm that life throws at you. Soulmates are made. And so, like you said, Diane, it's not based on your emotions of the day, of the moment. It's based on that commitment, that committed love that you have. Then your soulmates, like Jay ended that segment with, he said you find that your love is more passionate, more committed, more deeply rooted when you stay together, even when you have fallen out of love.
And when you walk through all of that stuff, I can firmly say, I love you so much more purely and deeply now than even when
And
I was
that's what
standing at the
happens.
altar.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
And I think Hollywood gets a bad rap sometimes because ultimately in Hollywood, it works out in the end, right? And so I think that's the message here. If you stay after it, right, it does work out in the end. It is worth it. It's worth the challenge. It's worth the battle, right? And if you stay with it, it will work out in the end.
It might not be a 2-hour movie span where it works out. It might take more work, a little longer, but it will.
Absolutely.
Worth the effort and the energy you put into it, but you do have to put that into it. It's so important. Well, when we come back, we're going to be hearing from Dr. Mike on the beach with the teaching about one of the biggest complaints he hears from couples in his clinical office. All right?
Stay with us.
Do a little thing with my friends. My friend says, "Oh, hey, I owe you one." I always says, "No, always remember, friends are always even."
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
After 30,000 hours in the clinical office, I'm convinced of one thing. Couples struggle significantly because of resentment that is built up in their heart and a lack of forgiveness over things that have happened long before I ever see them in the clinical office. So part of what we should do as healthy couples is choose to pursue forgiveness every day. It should be a daily occurrence for all of us if we want to have happy, healthy marriages. So what is forgiveness? That becomes the biggest question, right? What are we trying to do? Well, I'm going to start answering that question by telling you what it's not. Forgiveness is not trusting the other person. You don't have to trust someone just because you forgive them. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It's not even condoning what they've done. Your spouse might have hurt you. You don't have to condone what they did that hurt you. What you do need to do is release your anger. Release that part of you that is still activated emotionally by what they've done. And you have to allow yourself to just surrender that. Now, I talk a lot with folks in the clinical office about the difference between transactional interactions and grace and mercy oriented relationships. A transactional interaction is something like me going into Starbucks and saying, I want a coffee, so I'm gonna give you like what, $37. You're gonna give me one coffee, right? That's a transaction. I get what I deserve from you at Starbucks. Look, we don't get what we deserve in relationships. You've got to make peace with that. You're never going to be able to give your spouse what they actually deserve. They're broken, they're hurting, they've messed up. You have to allow yourself to approach them from a grace, mercy orientation and say, you know what? God has given me grace when I did not deserve it. He assigned me a new position. I'm going to assign you a new position. Forgiven. Trust me, as you extend forgiveness to your spouse and as you allow yourself to daily start engaging that process of forgiveness, you're going to find that your marriage is happier and healthier than ever.
Okay, great to hear from Mike on the beach. There's some good stuff there, challenging stuff for us in the kitchen here, Mike and Diane and Dan and Danielle. Forgiveness, choosing to forgive, pursue forgiveness every day, he said. Not easy.
It's not easy, but it's necessary because none of us are perfect. We all need to be forgiven by our spouse on a regular basis.
Yeah. Very true. By show of hands, how many people have made a mistake? Yeah, so we all have, and we have this as you were talking about the transactions, we get legalistic. We tend to get legalistic in this thing, but we all fail, and so knowing that coming in, we have that observation that we do all fail, and that little part in 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, but there's one little statement that says, love keeps no record of wrongs, right? And so when we are doing this right, we are not keeping a record of wrongs. There is no dialogue. And the reality is God has showed us the example first, right? Because while we were yet sinners, Christ loved us, right? And so we have that example. And then even when we get it wrong in Galatians, he says, those of you who are of the Spirit, restore them gently. Right? So one, we're going to make mistakes, right? That is going to happen, right? But we are not to keep a record of those mistakes. And even further than that, as it relates to the specific thing that's happening now, we're called to restore them gently.
That's good.
And we need to, as couples, we have to learn to stop keeping score, right? Because we always like to take score and start losing count.
That's
Right? Stop keeping score and start losing count. I know the Bible tells us to forgive 70 times 7, right? So that's 490 times. Not 409 times in a year, in 6 months, a day. 400, you have to forgive 409 a day, right? Because he tells us that's our job. That is what we're supposed to do, is to forgive over and over and over again.
And like you said earlier, Diane, love is a choice, but forgiveness is a choice. So you're not going to feel like forgiving someone all the time. I'm not going to feel like forgiving you, but we can't keep a record of wrongs. I think sometimes we're pretty good at that, but when we fight, sometimes we're blowing up an issue, the issue at hand, and why are we getting so mad about this? But
What
really,
we're fighting about is not really what we're fighting about.
what happened 5 years ago. You know,
There's
just be careful.
There's a subtext, there's a subplot, and there's connected what was said or done last month, or
That's
It
right.
piles up, but we need
That's
to
right.
just forgive. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard one guy say that being married is kind of like being arrested when you're talking to your wife. It's like being arrested. Anything you say can and will be used against you, and it'd be brought up later, and because they're keeping that count, right? No, you did this last night. But no, forgiving someone doesn't make the other person right. It just makes you free.
Right.
Makes you free.
That's right.
You know?
And Mike, you were talking about 1 Corinthians 13, and love is patient, love is kind, love is gentle, love is good, love keeps no record of wrongs. That kind of love described in that chapter is actually perfect love. That's agape love. That's God's love. And so we may think to ourselves, well, I can't, never keeps a record of wrong, is always patient. I can't live like that. I'm human. But I think the point is when we surrender our lives to the love of God in us, then he says, I can help you live like that. I can help you love like that. You're not perfect and you're going to blow it, but you know what? You can start over. You can say, you know what, honey, I blew it. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do my best to love you better today than I did yesterday. And as we both walk in that, and we both walk in grace and forgiveness, then it becomes easier then to live and love like that tomorrow.
'Cause she's the one maybe that needs grace today, but I might need grace tomorrow. 'Cause I might mess up tomorrow. It might happen.
It might happen. You think so?
Just mine. Just mine.
Yes. I do a little thing with my friends. When a friend says, "Oh, I owe you one," I always says, "No, always remember, friends are always even, right? So we don't keep score, right? You never owe me anything. This is what we do. So friends are always even."
Yeah, and Mike has this thing with the girls that he always tells them to love hard. And I love that because if you are loving hard, it makes it easy to forgive, right? So it brings that love factor back into the picture, right? Because if you're loving the way God tells us to love, it makes it easy to forgive, right?
Yes. Love puts someone else's interest before your own. It's a very simple formula. Put someone else's interest before your own.
Simple to know, hard to do sometimes.
Sometimes it takes some
Yeah.
visiting, and that's
Ooh,
okay.
Wow.
Over and over.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's kind of like dieting.
Okay, so bottom line, got to choose to forgive, pursue that forgiveness every day, and sometimes it's multiple times a day.
Yeah. And choosing not to forgive is unforgivable,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
right? Simple. It really is.
She's smart.
You married up,
Simple.
Mike. Okay. Well, stay with us. There's more to come. For more marriage encouragement, follow A Better Us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And subscribe for your free weekly Marriage Moment email at abetterus.tv.
Anger. You ever had a little anger in your marriage? Not unusual, right? And sometimes one person is more prone to anger than the other. What can you do about this?
Right. And when somebody is in an angry place, they do not have the powers of their rational adult self for that conversation.
No, in fact, we even know biologically in the brain, the amygdala, we sometimes call it an amygdala hijack. That's that part of the brain that just like loses control. And once that kind of gets tapped and you have that amygdala hijack, look out, because that person actually becomes kind of dangerous. They can't control their emotions.
Right. They literally, it's like an eclipse of their rational mind because their security alarms have gone off emotionally.
So the question is, what can you do when you reach that point in your redlining on anger?
Yeah, and here's what you need to do. You need to take a timeout. You need to set some boundaries. If you're the angry person, you need to say, this is not a good time for me to talk, and withdraw, but define that you'll come back when you have the capacity to be generous and fully present. If you're a spouse and your partner's getting angry in that conversation, you can draw a boundary and say, I'm going to set a boundary. This isn't a good time for you or me to talk. And step aside, not done in a rejecting way, but in a protecting way.
A healthy way, exactly. Now, of course, if anger becomes a pattern, and this is something that's routine in the relationship, you've got to get outside help. You've got to get objective help from a professional counselor.
Yeah, because something's triggering unfinished business. Anger is a big emotion because it's not just about the here and now, it's about something more, something that's happened before, and you need help to find resolve.
Hi, we hope you're enjoying the show.
You know, our vision at A Better Us is to see every marriage become a loving union that creates a safe family haven, building a legacy of hope for future generations.
That's why we feel it's so important to invest in marriage relationships through producing a new episode of A Better Us every week.
Absolutely. If you feel as we do that marriages are worth investing in, then please consider joining us as a member of A Better Us with a monthly donation of $25.
You'll be making a big difference in lives and families, and we'll send you 2 of our special mugs, the mugs that you see our kitchen couples using each program.
Absolutely. And be sure to send us your mugshot selfie, and we'll post it on our Facebook page and on our website.
Simply visit abetterus.tv and click donate to set up your automatic monthly giving. God bless you, and thank you so much for making this program possible and helping us strengthen marriages.
So we can all become a better us.
Pretty much every couple we know has conflict over money. It's hard not to, right? There's a money dimension to everything we do in our lives. From the first decision we make in the morning, are we going to make our own coffee in our coffee maker at home, or are we going to stop at Starbucks on the way to work? Are we going to pack a bag lunch, or are we going to go out for lunch? All through the day, we're making decisions about money, and we might make different decisions than our spouse, hence the conflict. And maybe they're not big fights, good for you, but for many of us, these fights are really intense. Some research out of Kansas State supports what many of us experience, that fights about money are more intense and last longer than other conflicts.
Here's what we've learned in our own attempts to try to be a better us, and with thousands of couples that we work with. Our money conflict isn't fundamentally rooted in a shortage of money. It's rooted in a conflict over money values, and we almost never talk about that.
Yeah.
So here's an example, a real life example, because we need a new TV.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We even agree that we
Yes,
need
we
a
do.
new TV, maybe for different reasons. For me, the playoffs are on.
Yeah, for me, Master Chef is wrapping up
Yeah,
or
so
something like that.
we need a new TV or we're going to miss some good stuff. So there's no conflict on that, but we have different ideas about the kind of TV to buy. I know that what we really need is a 75-inch OLED TV. It's fantastic, and it's only $6,000.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I saw the TV we need at Costco for $600. So we have the makings of a good money conflict, but it's really not about the dollars. Well, sort of about the dollars, but it's more about the values beneath the dollars. And that's almost always the case. So some of us see money as enjoyment, some of us see it as status, some as power, and some of us as security. And like every other dimension of our relationships, you probably have differences here too.
So let's go back to our example. So I see money as enjoyment. I really do.
You do.
So I want this fantastic TV so we can have the Grey Cup party at our house, so we can have the best movie nights ever and have everybody over and everybody can see the screen. Money is for enjoyment and making people happy.
And I like those things, but I see money as security. So if we had the money in the bank, no, I still wouldn't be okay with a $6,000 TV, but I would love to get a good TV, but I don't want to go into debt for a TV. For one thing, it makes me feel irresponsible and it stresses me out.
I could also want the TV largely for status reasons. I mean, let's say my brother just got a 70-inch TV, and he and I have always been competing, and I just have to have one bigger than him.
2 inches bigger.
And the fourth value might be that comes to play here is power. If there's no agreement on how you're going to make money decisions, every money decision can trigger a relational conflict. So the conflict's not about the money, but it's about who has the power to make these decisions. Who's got the power in this relationship? Now, it's really wise to get good advice on how to budget and save and invest, but when it comes to the marriage implications of money, we need to pay attention to the money values that are driving each of us, because that's where the deep conflict comes from.
We're still not getting a 75-inch TV.
On today's program, we've talked a lot about our feelings.
Something that guys would probably rather avoid.
But you know what? Talking about them is good to do because we know that our feelings often dictate our actions.
That's right. In marriage, whether it's a feeling of falling out of love,
or a feeling of resentment towards your spouse, feelings everybody at one time or another has dealt with in marriage,
it's crucial to remember that our feelings are not to be the basis of our decisions.
Feelings need to regularly take a back seat to our commitment of unconditional love, the same kind of love that God shows towards us.
It's a grace and mercy love. It's intimate and tender and forgiving, even when your spouse doesn't deserve it.
Because before you know it, you'll probably be on the needing end of that kind of love yourself.
Maybe that's where you find yourself right now, needing the love that Jesus offers, or you need the strength to show that kind of love to someone who makes it really hard to give it.
The number on your screen is our prayer line, and it's free and available 24/7. Our team would love to pray with you and help connect you to the greatest source of help for you personally and for your marriage. And that is Jesus. A personal relationship with Him truly makes every other relationship so much better.
We also have some great resources available for you on our website at abetterus.tv, including a free weekly marriage moment email to give you encouragement for your marriage.
Thanks again for stopping by. And remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.